I'm starting a new series today called Running on Empty, and I thought Easter would be a good time to do that. And here's the only thing I can tie together, like the grave was empty. So I guess Jesus was running on empty. I don't know. All right, there's your Easter message, right? Happy Easter to everybody. I kind of did my Easter thing last week, so if you missed it, just go on YouTube and check it out, and maybe you'll figure out what Easter's about or whatever. Maybe you won't, who knows. But I figured that today there was going to be a lot of you here today that normally sleep in on Sunday. So I wanted to take this opportunity while I had you captured to talk about something I think is important to us. I feel like in our culture today that we are stretched to the absolute limits with time, with money, with obligations. I feel like we're just so busy. It's rare when I talk to somebody and they don't say, man, I'm just busy, or they're on their way to doing something or just coming from something. Do you ever feel like you're just absolutely pushed to max? I get in these moods where, like, if somebody else, one more person asks me to do one more thing, I'm going to snap, because, like, I am at the top. And here's the thing. My wife is so busy, her life overflows onto everybody's around her. So she keeps all of us on full. So this series is really for her. I'm just going to make that up front. I'm tired. I'm run out. I'm worn out. So I'm going to talk to her for the next few weeks in front of y'all. I know. I got to watch it. I don't feel like that. We've got this idea that busyness is next to godliness. Like, if we're just busy, then we're accomplishing things. But I found out in my life that the busier I am, kind of the less I get done that's really worthwhile anyway. And so I want to, in this series, I want to address some issues and some things that we can do to refuel and refill the tank. Today I want to call this message No Fuel Left for Life. And I want to call it that because I'm really excited about Easter. And not because I get to hunt eggs or eat chocolate Cadbury eggs that I'm not supposed to eat, but I love to eat anyway. You can justify it, though, because they're only out once a year. So you got to get it while the getting's good, right? I'm excited because today is a celebration of the day that we were given life. And I don't think we fully get that. How many of you guys have lost close people in your life? Maybe a mom, a dad, a son, a daughter, brother, sister, friend. When you lose someone that's extremely close to you, that period after that loss, you start to look at things a little different, don't you? I notice in my life when I lose people that are close to me, I think, what's the point of all of this stuff? Why don't I just do more of the good stuff? Why am I so busy doing and tending after things that really are not going to matter when life is so precious, when the people close to us matter the most? And I start looking around and I lose my friends, I lose family members, and I think, man, if I could only, you ever do that? I'm sure we all do that. If I could only go back, I would have made more of an effort. I wouldn't have wasted time doing this. I would have spent more time doing this. And we start to think about life in the real scope of what this life in the earth is really about. And this life on our earth is really about our community. It's about relationships. Without relationships, life seems so insignificant. I think about those monks that go up in the mountains, and they go up there and they live solitude. In solitude, they're alone. They don't speak to anybody. They spend their lives in an attempt to grow closer to God. But here's what I found. There's nothing that'll make you draw closer to God than the people around you. If you don't believe that, man, you got some good people around you. There's a verse in the Bible that says iron sharpens iron. I've got some iron around me. I got people around me that make me draw closer to God. And that's a good thing. The thing is, love is what God is. So without those relationships and without love, then we start to find that life seems to be insignificant. I think about what Steve was talking about earlier and think about money. And we give and we receive money. And money comes in and money goes out. Seems to be there's never enough. Sometimes you've got a good job. Sometimes things are going well. Sometimes you're on top of it. And then other times you aren't. But what I found is in life, there's always going to be those ebbs and flows in finances. And money seems to be such a priority in our life. But really, it comes and it goes, doesn't it? And when you have and when you don't have, it really, you can always make money back. I mean, how many of you guys have been broke? How many of you guys are broke? You know what it means to be broke, right? But there's always tomorrow. You can always make more money. One thing I found about my stuff, I can always replace my stuff. I can always replace my stuff. But there's one thing that I can never reclaim, and that's my time. Time's marching, time's moving, and we can't reclaim it. So in this series, I want to look at the things that cause us to run out of fuel. And I think the number one thing that causes us to run out of fuel is bad priorities. I think we have the priorities set on the wrong things. Now here's what I've found in my life to be true. That when I get close to empty, when I'm feeling burnout, you guys know what I'm talking about? Like, y'all don't, we got to be in this together or it's just like a waste of everybody's time. Have you ever been in that place where you're feeling burnout, like you just can't stretch anymore? Like everything's going every direction, 1,000 miles an hour, and you just can't seem to get on top of it. What I've found in my life is when that happens, I stop living by my priorities and I start letting life run me. I just try to maintain and keep my head above water. And here's what I want us to do today. I want us to figure out that there is a real life out there, that we have all been given the gift of life. Whenever the writer John starts writing in his gospel in John chapter 1, he comes to this realization. Now, you got to remember, he's not writing this in real time. This is a reflection back. So he starts out his gospel in John chapter 1. He starts out talking about the beginning. And he goes and he starts talking about how God was in the beginning and God had a will in the beginning. And he goes on to say that God's will was his word, and the word was with God. And then he goes on and he talks about that all things were made through him, and without him not anything was made that was made. And in him was life. In God, in God's word, in God's will is life. Now, the writers in the Old Testament, they understood this. They actually believed that the commandments of God were the only life. That's why they were so committed to it. But I think the problem is today we don't believe that. We believe that life is found in so many other places and so many other things, And let's be honest. Isn't God just another thing on the list? Like when you're stretched to the max and you're out of energy and you're out of time and you're running on energy, what's the first thing to go? I mean, for most of us, the first thing to go is any time we spend with God. Any quiet time, any time we read our Bible, any prayer time. The next thing to go, when the kids got, like we work all week and we got kids stuff on Friday and Saturday and now Sunday afternoon. And like that hour on Sunday, man, I just can't make it this week. I just got too much to do. The priorities come to the top. When we get in that position, when you got plenty of time and everything's going smooth, oh, it's just church, we'll just go, it's just an hour, whatever. But what I found when you get really busy, that's the easiest place to cut. It's the easiest place to sacrifice. It's the easiest place to let things go. The real priorities start coming to the surface, right? So what I believe is that we actually don't believe that God is life. I don't think we believe that. I don't think we believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. There's this story in the Bible in John chapter 11, and it's the story of Lazarus and his sisters. And you may have heard this story before, but Lazarus was a friend of Jesus. He had two sisters, and they call for Jesus, say Lazarus is sick, and Jesus doesn't come immediately, and their brother dies. Time was valuable to them. Their brother dies, and when Jesus shows up, the sisters are kind of ticked off because they've seen him heal all of these people. And so they're having this conversation in John chapter 11, and it goes like this. In John chapter 11 verse, will just be like 21. And Martha, this is one of the sisters, said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you." And Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." And Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." And Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection and the life. I am the resurrection and life. And whoever believes in me, though he dies, shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?" And she said to him, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who is coming into the world." He wasn't coming. He had come. He'd come. And he was the resurrection and the life. And we've got to understand that when I say to you, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, guys, you got to get off of Jesus then. He's your life now. And life does not exist outside of him. And if we don't get that straight, then how can we ever set our priorities? You can do anything you want with your priorities, but if you leave life out of it, then you can never have life. That's the truth. You can say, well, I'm gonna make my priorities like family. It's going to be a priority with me. My time is going to be a priority with me. My friends are going to be a priority with me. Getting healthy is not going to be a priority with me. I mean, it's good. You can say all of that, but if you have no life in that, then there's nothing to work with. So I want to make clear today that Jesus is the life. And if we're going to adjust our priorities, it's not that we need to set Jesus as the number one priority. We need to understand that he is who we're talking about. That the whole list of priorities are in him. God is not a number on your list. He is the list that you put all the numbers into. If you don't get that, it's not going to work. Nothing's going to help you. You're going to find yourself in this situation over and over and over again. And until you understand that Jesus is the resurrection and Jesus is the life, and that He will radically love you and transform you and change you and breathe life into you, a life that you could never hope for or dream or imagine. When you look at people and you go, I just don't get why they're the way they are. It's because Jesus is their life. And once we get that, then we can start to understand what our priorities look like. So what I want you to do this week is I want you to examine and make sure that Jesus is your life. You have to have that set. But then I want us to go to work because I want to help you. I want to help us heal. I want to help us have energy for living. See, I believe that Jesus said He came to give the abundant life, and I don't believe the abundant life is just go until you fall over, sleep 6 hours, and go again. That's not the life that I would call an abundant life. So let's look at the priorities. First, I want us to understand there are givens. There are things that you're going to have to do in life. All right. This is our first priority in life, is that we have to earn a living. Now, I'm sorry if that's far down on your list, but there's a reality in our world, an honest reality in our world. It costs money to eat. It costs money to turn on light switches. It costs money to walk into a house. Unless you can live with your parents. And then sooner or later, man, they're going to be done with you. Trust me. You can only milk that one so long. The thing is, there is a reality to life. There are certain things that we have to do. We have to eat. We have responsibilities, finances that we have to do. So a priority in our lives has to be income. It's a dirty word. But so far, I haven't ever found anybody pay me for doing nothing. So there's a word attached to income. Here it goes. We're just going to spit it out there. Work. Like, that's the only way you get paid that I've found. Maybe you're smarter than me, but I have to work. Like, I don't get paid if I don't work. So we have to work. Now, some of us work harder, some of us work smarter. How you work, that's up to you. But there's something about doing an honest day's work and getting paid that's good. You may be in a place right now where you don't have a job. That's priority. You may be in a place right now where you don't know where your income's coming from. I'll guarantee you this, I've been there, and there's nothing that'll empty your tank faster than the stress and worry and obligations you have with no way to meet those obligations. So those things are going to have to come to the top of the list. Okay, but here's the problem we have. We let work then dominate our lives. Our work, I believe with all my heart, our work is what we're called to. A lot of people think, well, if I'm in God and I'm passionate for God, then my work should be at the church. I have to be honest with you. It's not as glamorous as it looks. I make it look good. It's not that glamorous. Everybody has a fantasy of what it would be like to work at the church. It's not that cool. It's not that cool. What I found is that when you work and you're doing and you're in God and that's life, your work seems to be life too. Your ministry is an overflow of who you are into the people you're around. And once your work becomes your ministry, it's no longer work. It's just who you are. It's something you do that you get paid for. It makes it a lot better. You need to find that place when you're looking for that work. You need to find that place where what you do doesn't define who you are, but who you are does what you do because it's your ministry. I couldn't say that again if I wanted to. So don't. You just have to roll tape on that because I don't. who you really are will overflow into what you do. And that's your ministry. That's how you impact the world around you in a positive way for Jesus. But after we do that, man, we have to set some priorities and take them off limits. In my life, my marriage is my number 2 priority. And you'd say, well, your work's number 1? Well, my wife likes to eat. I found my marriage is a lot better when I work. Anybody else ever found that? All the women are like, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. For me, my wife is my top priority. And a lot of people say, well, that's weird that your wife would be your top priority. What about your kids? My kids are leaving. My kids are leaving. Don't question that. That's not a question. That's a statement. It's a fact. My kids are leaving. Now, I'm going to raise my kids and love my kids, but my priority, and my kids know my priority, is my wife. And I have to make time for her. You have to make time for your spouse. That has to be a priority because that's the partner God has given you. Now, maybe you're single. But you're just lucky. Why do all the single people are like, man, if I could just find somebody. Dude, fantasy. You got to live in fantasy world. I could just get married. It'd solve all my problems. Get married. If I could just have kids, it'd solve all my problems. Shit. Multiplication of problems. You don't get your problem, you get yours and her problems. Then you got kids, you get yours, hers, and theirs. See, you thought you had problems when you were single. I'm not against marriage. Totally. Jesus said, if you can handle not being married. I don't think he said it just like that, but I think that was what he meant. It's a whole lot easier. There's responsibilities in having a family, isn't there? Does it take your energy? Does it take the fuel out of your tank? My kids are work. And even when they get older and they get their driver's license and they're not dependent on you fully, all they do is call and ask, can I? And it's, I need some money. And then if they don't get money from you, they go to your mom, and then they go to your wife's mom, and then they go, right? And make the rounds. They know where the money trail is. The thing is, it's work and it's draining. So those are priorities. Those are going to take a toll. But I set my marriage as a priority. I have to. And I'll tell you what happens when life starts closing in and my marriage starts getting choked out, we start fighting. Now you're like, I know you can't believe that. Celia is the sweetest person in the world. Oh my God. Dude, you have no idea. I'm the nice one. I'm the nice one. And when the world starts closing in, your marriage seems to get pushed down in the stack, right? Maybe your job, maybe you start working 80 hours a week. And maybe you have to. I don't know. But if you do, you still have to prioritize your marriage. You have to prioritize your kids. You had them. They're your responsibility. My mom's amening. You had them. They're your responsibility. You have to prioritize that, or they're going to get pushed down and kicked to the side. You're going to give them up to somebody else to let somebody else take care of them. Let somebody else raise them. Let somebody else influence them. That's our jobs. That's an obligation that we have. That's a responsibility that we have. We have to steward that responsibility. And if you don't, if you let other things start to come into play, your kids are going to get out of control. You know what kids want? Absolutely everything. Kids want structure and kids want discipline. And you may be sitting there saying, not my kid. Yes, your kid. They don't like it. They're not going to come and go, Mom, I'd really like some structure and some discipline if you got time. Kids want structure and kids want discipline. You know, the kids do what they do because they have a fear that no one cares. They have a fear of being abandoned, of not being prioritized, of being unloved. And so they're going to act out and they're going to do things to get your attention. They're going to do things to try to make you discipline them, to try to make you give them structure. If you don't prioritize your kids, you're going to have trouble with your kids. I have trouble with my kids. When my life gets out of control, I have trouble with my kids. I have to get a big old 2x4 and just, no, I don't. I should. Yeah, go pick me a switch, a thistle. The thing is, we have to set these priorities. Then you have to decide what it is in your life that you really love. What are you passionate about? What are you driven by? What I found is the things that I love always seem to get pushed to the bottom. And I let busyness of life take the things I love. And what I notice about myself is I'm just walking around surviving life, going through the motions, letting my list, my wife's list, my kids' list dominate my life. That's not living. Man, there should be joy and passion and drive in our lives. But there won't be if you don't prioritize them. We need to go home. We need to decide what our priorities are. And then we need to come up with a plan to make those priorities work in our lives. You need to go home and decide what's important to you. What's important to you? You know what the hardest thing in the world to do in our culture today? No. We can't say it. I don't know why. We want people to like us. We don't want to let people down. We don't want to disappoint people. We want people's image of us to be something. Look, we're not running for office. You can say no. You can say no. You got to start saying no to the right things and yes to the right things. We say yes to everything and end up having no time to do anything. I was telling my wife this last night and she called me a liar to my face. I was reading a magazine this week, and it said that human beings are absolutely incapable of multitasking. Our minds will not multitask. We think we can, and a lot of you are going, I can. Right now, you're sitting there going, well, I can. The thing is, you are not capable of multitasking. Here's what the Bible says, though. The human heart is most deceitful and wicked. Like the human heart, humans are the only ones who have the ability to lie to ourselves and believe it. Isn't that crazy that we can lie to ourselves and buy it? And you're sitting there right now going, I can multitask. And you believe you can. But ask the people around you if you can. You're very ineffective at life when you're trying to do too many things. We got to get our priorities set, okay? We've got to get our priorities set. Next week, we're going to go into what we do after our priorities are set. We're going to look at these different things. I mean, we're going to talk about your schedule. Look, you have to get on a schedule. You have to get structured. You have to get on a budget. You have to get structured. We have to do these things. It's very, very important that we get our lives structured so that we can find space in our lives. If you're not scheduled and you're not structured, you're going to live in chaos. I heard this said a few years ago and I tried it for one day. I felt so busy and so overwhelmed that I just was going and bouncing off a million different places, going a million different ways. You ever been there? Like, you're working on something and you work on it for 5 minutes and somebody says, can you do this? And you do this and then you're back over here and then you jump over here and then you're doing this and then you're going there and then you're getting nothing done and it's just driving you crazy. And I would tell people and they'd be like, how's it going? I'm like, I'm just busy. I can't take it. I can't take anything else. So I was reading this book as a book and it said, write down everything you do during the day. Everything you do, list it. And I did that one day. I found out I wasn't that busy. I wasn't doing jack. Like I was doing nothing. I have tons of free time. But it didn't feel like it. See, our busyness, a lot of times our busyness and our feeling of being overwhelmed, that's a reality for you. For you inside, that's a reality. But if you start looking at the real physical evidence, you're not busy. You're really not that busy. You just feel busy because we're so scattered and we got so many demands and so many things pulling at us and we said yes and we obligated to too many things. Most of our busyness is all in our heads. We got to find these space for life. We're going to talk about all this stuff in detail. Jesus gave us life. He made a way for God's laws to be fulfilled. Do you realize, and this may come as a shock to most of you, do you realize that thou shalt not kill is a commandment, right? Everybody knows that. Don't steal, right? The commandment? Good, right? That's good. It's a good one. Don't lie. That's a good one. Don't commit adultery. Your wife likes that one. No, that's a better way to live, right? That's a law. Those are God's big 10, like chiseled in stone laws. On the Sabbath day you shall do no work. It's a day of complete rest. In stone. When was the last time you had a day of complete rest? We can't figure out why we're out of gas. God put in His law margins in our life so that we could maintain, that we could stay fueled up. It's not a good idea to get rest. It's God's will that you get rest. It's God's will that you sit in your chair and you defy that weed to grow in front of you on your Sabbath. Tempting the Lord your God. Weeds. Trash sitting in your yard. Come pick me up. That one thing you have to do that's going to make you get ahead for tomorrow. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. How many of you have ever gotten ahead? From what I remember, time always moves at the same pace we do. I can't get there while I'm here. You're not going to get ahead. But you will fall behind if we don't find those places. This is what this series is about. I'm going to talk about how to reclaim your life again. But it's got to start today. You've got to go home this week and you've got to set your priorities, and you need to get some priorities set in stone that you will not compromise no matter how busy you get. One of the most concrete priorities I've ever set was in my marriage was Friday night is date night. And for years, it didn't matter. People would schedule stuff up here at the church and go, I can't believe Todd didn't even come. Date night. Sorry. Don't die on Friday. Coming. It's Friday. I mean, my daughters want to play baseball. I'm like, that's great. Got her schedule. Game on Friday night. Who's the priority? Is my marriage going to be priority or my kid going to be priority? Does the ballpark dictate my life? Well, it starts to. Schedules. You get multiple kids and multiple things going on at the same time. Schedules start to dictate your time, right? All the time. You have to carve out places. Now, I'll be honest with you. In the last several months, I dropped that priority. Just what I talked to you guys about. Burnout. Too busy. And then everything started piling up, and the natural flow was to take care of everything and not stay on the priority list. And I wanted to kill my wife. We've been at each other for a while. And it's not good. I don't like it. I don't like going home when it's like that. I don't like dealing with my life when it's that way. I like when I go home, it's like, hey, honey, how was your day? Can I do something for you? It never has happened yet, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. See, what I want, though, is I want us to get back on track. I want to set aside time, space, priorities for the right things. I've had a lot of people leave this church over the years because I say no to a lot of things. I say no to weddings. Sorry. If you're planning on getting married, I'm sorry. I say no to weddings. You know why? Brides. Because a wedding isn't an hour. I don't know if you're aware of this. A wedding is a month or longer. I don't have time. I don't have time. It's not my priority. It's your wedding. It's not that I'm not, I've done told you I'm for marriage, okay? Get married. We pay justice of the peace for that. Look, you could save so much money. That's just a sidebar for my daughter. Thank JP. The thing is, I say no to things, and some people don't like when you say no. Sorry. You go ahead and be responsible for your life, and I'll go ahead and be responsible for mine. Understand when people say no. That got nothing to do with you. The whole world don't revolve around you. The whole world don't revolve around you. People say no because you don't know what they have in their lives. Maybe you're just mad and jealous because they can say no. My wife, when we were first married, I'm going to tell on her because she was a yes man. I mean, to everything. And she got so furious at me because I would say no. And it was like she was jealous. I just wish I could say no. You know, it's not hard. No, Pat him on the back. Sorry. I love you, man, but no way. I mean, it's not that we got to be rude or mean or bitter or angry or all worked up or get emotional, all that. It's just no. Just simple no. Then she goes through this phase. I'm just going to tell all of her secrets. Then she went through this whole phase of where she had to come up with an excuse and she wouldn't lie. So she created something to do to not have to do something else. I'm like, dude, if you're not going to say no, at least lie. You know, I mean, I can't because I got to, run a marathon. Got a marathon that day. Make up something. That's just a little lie. Obviously, nobody would buy that. This is what I want to get into, though. I'm sorry, I'm not going to keep you anymore. I really think, though, that we can find space in our lives to really start to grab hold of what Jesus wanted for us, and that's life. You guys will stand with me. I want to pray for you.